Well, here we are. The Nintendo Switch 2 was unveiled not that long ago, and while I'd still like to learn more about it before purchasing, I'm at the very least invested in what it'll bring. When rewatching that trailer, I find it funny how casual this new system reveal turned out, and how Nintendo is basically saying, "You wanted Switch 2? Here you go!" You know, with the Switch 2 already leaving people intrigued, along with the Switch 1's success, it leaves me wondering why the Wii U did so poorly. It also has me wondering how we jumped from the Wii U's failure to the Switch's success so quickly. After all, people will claim that the Switch is just Nintendo trying to get whatever they were going for with the Wii U to work, and they'd be right. Now that the Nintendo Switch is one of the best-selling video game consoles of all time, it makes a ton of sense for the next system to follow the footsteps of its predecessor. Even if Switch 2 isn't exactly the most creative name imaginable, it really shows how desperate Nintendo is with avoiding a similar situation they had with the Wii U. Since the Wii U left a sour taste in people's mouths and sorta just faded out of existence shortly after, I can't help but constantly think what went wrong with it. I mean, during the year 2012, folks were hugely confused on what the system was even capable of after the consoles we had before. Back then and even today, critics will clown on the Wii U for being a flop, but never mention how the GameCube secretly flopped as well. I say secretly because, as we know, many Nintendo fans will go on about how great of a console the GameCube is, but rarely talk about how it lost to the PS2. Now that I think of it, the reputations of both the GameCube and Wii U were vaguely similar with one another. Suffering from extremely poor advertising, a divisive exterior design, a lack of third-party support, and a perceived kiddie image from their design and marketing. Along with the PS2 having the ability to also play movies and DVDs, which was a first for video game consoles at the time. This console, on the other hand, had a handful of things that the general public did find interesting. Plus, it could be seen as an improvement from the original Wii for a multitude of reasons. Just like how the 3DS went above and beyond with what the DS already did. Alright, enough rambling, let's take a look on how the Wii U started out and ended off between 2012 to 2017. From what I gathered and remembered, the code name for Nintendo's new system in 2011 was, get this, Project Cafe, or just Wii 2. Yeah, don't look at me, I'm just looking over the details of what IGN posted here. Also, Wii 2? Switch 2? So along with the name, this also included the system's estimated pricing, release, console design, processing architecture, and name. Project Cafe was officially unveiled as the Wii U during Nintendo's press conference at E3 2011 by former President Reggie, and he explained that the Wii U would be a system we will all enjoy together, but also one that's tailor-made for you. Then we finally got a glimpse of the console itself and what it would bring to the table, and this reveal trailer wins the award for strangest console reveal ever. In fact, the term console shouldn't even be what I use here, it should just be controller. I can only imagine the difficulty of trying to explain how different this system was from the OG Wii. Comparing this to the Switch reveal trailers is night and day, and it's a stunning miracle how far we've come. It's funny, because the first thing that caught my eye was the gamepad having circle pads here. But then they went with the smart decision of giving it actual analog sticks instead. No joke, when I saw the gamepad for the first time, I was instantly reminded of those old school YouTube videos where they would show fake photoshopped gaming consoles giving off the idea of what the next PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo consoles would be. Yeah, it did kind of throw me off quite a bit since it's literally just a tablet with real buttons for you to press, but at the same time, I still thought it looked pretty cool. I was only a child around the time who was fascinated by every new piece of tech or whatever, so don't judge me. It really didn't help that the teaser kept highlighting the fact that this device was a new controller. New console was not uttered once throughout the entire 3 minutes and 24 seconds of this video. Oh, but it wasn't just this trailer though. Many adverts were also heavily emphasizing that the gamepad was all just a new controller and nothing more. Which could easily fool parents into thinking that this was just some expensive accessory for the Wii. And it did. This only convinces me that even at the start, they had no idea how to market this thing from the get-go. And just like the Switch, the Wii U's launch titles were laughably bad. The only game that I would have played at the time was New Super Mario Bros. U, which isn't the worst game of all time, but is definitely the most generic Mario game, period. Then you have other weird stuff, such as Nintendo Land, Zombie U, Game Party Champions, Sing Party, etc. Hell, the reason why I'm the only one who remembers Sing Party was not because I played it, but because the commercial for it had Glad You Came by The Wanted playing in the background, which is a great song. In fact, looking back at the commercial now, it made me realize how old the song is! And also how old I am. Oh yeah, and while I was doing research for this video, I unfortunately found out that one of the band members, Tom Parker, died due to brain cancer at age 33 in 2022. Rest easy, Tom. Man, why must the good die young? As for the game itself, it was literally just an even stupider version of Just Dance, which was stupid enough already. Speaking of which, people always say that the Wii U's commercials were awful, even though I agree to an extent, but I actually didn't mind the ones they made in 2012. I really liked the aesthetic and visuals with all the neon lights and the humans playing the games in this giant U apartment looking thing. The background music was quite a jam too, which kinda shows how much confidence Nintendo gained while the proper marketing started. Well, little did they know. But yeah, these are definitely the most 2012 commercials I've ever seen in my life. I didn't end up getting my Wii U until Christmas of 2013, and it was the Skylanders Swap Force bundle that it came in, which also included Nintendo Land. If you don't know what Skylanders is, I can't really blame you. I always thought it was dumb how the premium pack for this console came with more data storage than the basic pack, and I didn't find out about this until after they got me the basic pack. Great. Along with the console, my parents also gifted me Super Mario 3D World and Sonic Lost World, which were the only things that immediately made me want to get this system, unsurprisingly. I'm sure you can guess which 2 out of the 4 games I played the most. So yeah, I had 4 games in total to play that day. Seems like I scored, huh? Here's something funny. I did eventually play Nintendo Land, but not for that long cause the game was pretty ass. Even to this day, I have not been able to try out Skylanders Swap Force because the game requires a stool to put these amiibo knockoffs on them, which I ended up losing over time. So now the game just sits here on my shelf collecting dust for all eternity, and I don't see myself playing it at any point. Also in 2013 was when more of the awful commercials started to appear on TV, especially with the ones that feature kids explaining to their parents why they need a Wii U.
And it comes with 2 free games. Hot buttered popcorn, that's a deal!
What the hell is even that?
To be fair, some of the 3DS ads around that same time period didn't look that good either, so I'd say the marketing teams deserve the blame here. It's just really funny looking back at some of them, realizing how extremely dated each and every one of them are now. So even though I'm the only one who's going to be spending the most time on it, the Wii U is a great console for extending family time, which you guys don't seem to care all that much about these days. That's great and all, son, but we've got bills to pay, especially since you do nothing but watch TV all day. Besides, don't you already have a console that literally has the same color and shape as that? Get me a Wii U right now! Okay, holy shit, relax. But these ads, man, it almost made it seem like they wanted the system to flop, with the total number of sales being 13.56 million units. Just an inch behind from the PS Vita, which also failed. During this era, I'm pretty sure I was one of the only people in my school who owned a Wii U and mostly played first-party games on it. Thanks to these awful advertisements, they really made it seem like the system was only meant for children and not exactly anyone above that age. Many others in my class either had an Xbox One, PS4, or just didn't play video games at all, which is kinda understandable. Now that the Switch brought Nintendo back to their roots, all the people in my school who barely dabbled with Nintendo got back into it and played Mario, Zelda, Kirby, Animal Crossing, and whatnot. So all is right with the world. And as you'd imagine, in high school I was mocked for liking Mario games, but those same people would also pull out their Switches and play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe thinking I wasn't gonna notice. And get this, they wouldn't let me play with them. Honestly, I didn't even care for being the only one who loved Nintendo, since it did help me stick out among the crowd. Of course, there's nothing wrong with kids being the target demographic. You were most likely a kid when you got introduced to Nintendo as well, but adverts like these were really not the best solution, and I fail to understand why the devs thought it would fall through in a good way. Thank the Lord that the Switch had the target demographic be teens and full-grown adults, and not just kids. And in case you're wondering what the U in the name stood for, it was basically catered to, well, you, as the player. Yeah, that will totally not have the general audience be even more confused than they already were. At least the 3D and the 3DS made sense and actually sounded cool. Anyway, ignoring the console itself for a bit, the library of games were spectacular. You already heard me mention Super Mario 3D World, which isn't just one of the best Wii U games, but one of the best Mario games in general. So many awesome levels with neat little gimmicks and collectibles. Just like every other Nintendo system, Mario's got some great games to go along with it. The only two that really didn't do it for me and several other folks were Mario Tennis Ultra Smash and Mario Party 10. Ultra Smash was just immeasurably disappointing, while Party 10 was just Party 9, but somehow worse. And it took me a while to play Mario Kart 8 because my cat tore up the gamepad charger, so I had to get a new one at GameStop. But once I finally got it working again, I played the hell out of the game for literal hours. Sonic, on the other hand, didn't really have much of an easy life on the Wii U since it was the home of two of some of the worst games in the series according to the fanbase. Sure, Mini-Me enjoyed Lost World at the time of its launch, but after replaying it recently, it's clear that my thoughts then have aged like crap. The Olympic Games weren't great either, but we had All-Star Racing transformed, and that was quite enjoyable, so there's that. And at least Sonic had games for this console, which is more than I can say for our boy Kirby, since he only had one game on the Wii U, which was just a sequel of Canvas Curse. Thankfully, Zelda didn't have a single bad game as they released banger after banger, especially with the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess remasters. Sure, it wasn't much, but hey, that's better than no games! And while folks will claim that Breath of the Wild was the last game to be distributed for this system, that isn't entirely true. The real last game was this random indie title called Shakedown Hawaii. I would love to be that one singular person who actually bought it for the Wii U. And this was also the last Nintendo game to be released on an actual disc as well. While we're on the subject, the way the discs were made for the Wii U in particular were oddly beautiful for some reason. I don't know why, I just can't help but think of that. I still have yet to play Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, but I certainly want to now, since gamers clamor about how much of a great 2D platformer it is. Can't forget about Super Smash Bros., since this was the game to add in characters that most of us didn't think would be possible, like Cloud and Bayonetta. I do miss the trophies and all the other side modes that were not included in Ultimate, like Smash Tour though. Oh yeah, and Splatoon seemed to be pretty popular as well, even though I myself barely touched it since the series didn't exactly interest me all that much. Say what you will about this silly little console, but a majority of the games it had were very enjoyable. And that's proven even further with most of them either having sequels or brought over to the Switch with added content. It amuses me how folks have stated that they wanted many Wii U games to be brought to the Switch, but at the same time, they'll claim that the Wii U had no good games or were glad to not have owned one. Good luck trying to figure out that flawed logic for me. Plus, it had Miiverse, which many can agree was a fun little thing to use to draw and send messages online with. For the most part. Sadly, I didn't really use much of it since I mostly played games offline around the time, and the only instance where I used it were to send messages in 3D World, like, "Yay, I beat the level," or some funny shit like that. So no, I didn't join those discussion groups that had people suggesting for SpongeBob, Shrek, Goku, or Twilight Sparkle to be in Smash Bros., and I'm honored to have not joined that community of weirdos. Speaking of communities with weirdos, some artists thought they were funny and used this social platform to post some unmentionable adult stuff on there. So maybe Miiverse getting shut down was for the best. It'd be really cool for Nintendo to do something similar to Miiverse again for the Switch too, with a bit more restrictions, since there's no way in hell they'd ever consider to revive that network today. There was also Art Academy, which was just DeviantArt, but not nearly as cancerous, if not at all, from what I've seen. It'll never beat Flipnote Studios though, that's for sure. And of course, as we all know, the eShop was shut down in March of 2023. And did we get any specific reasons on why that happened? Nope. Another thing is that for some reason the Switch didn't have a proper internet browser, but the Wii U did, so that's another point towards it. Making levels in Super Mario Maker was also a lot more fun with the gamepad rather than just making them with a controller in the sequel. I know you could use your finger or just buy a Switch stylus for that, but I just really didn't want to for some reason. But yeah, the Wii U definitely had a style of its own that is significantly different from any other console. Whether the style was good or bad depends on who you ask, but I thought it was cool. And at least the online was free. Sure, the Switch Online service may be worth it today, but the Wii U service had it free from the start, and not to mention Virtual Console. You could play games for Super Nintendo, N64, GBA, and especially the DS. By the way, the console seems like it would be great for playing modded games with, so hopefully I gain the confidence to try that out eventually. Sony had to have loved this console if they thought making their own version of it would be a smart idea. Either way, I feel people tried way too hard to treat this system like it was the worst console to grace the planet Earth, when that obviously goes to the Virtual Boy. All I can say is, Nintendo was at least trying with the Wii U. But no, I cannot defend or even talk about this nausea-giving machine. The Wii U had its highs and lows, but despite all of the lows, the console had made a name for itself. Not the best name, but a memorable name nonetheless. No matter how many gamers will constantly claim it was more underpowered than the Xbox One and PS4 around the time. But at least it was the superior way of playing ordinary Wii games in a widescreen format. So yeah, I'm not disappointed with the Wii U, and I can heavily appreciate what it had to offer since it truly had ambition. It also had a numerous amount of flaws here and there, but I'm glad to have owned one and will gladly never get rid of mine. Anyway, that'll do it for today's video, so be sure to let me know what you thought about the Wii U in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you have any fond memories with it? Do you have a favorite Wii U game? Share as much as you'd like. With that said, thank you guys for watching, comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a nice day.